That is, I'm blushing.
What is that behind you? It's gorgeous.
It is the art in my Los Angeles Airbnb.
Oh, nice. Jackson Pollock lived there before you did. So,
Correct, exactly.
wow. What a nice background. First of all, I'm just verklempt to talk to you. By the way, I adore you, and I'm ingratiating myself to you at this moment.
It's so nice. I love that you're verklempt at talking to me. That's an A plus.
I know. Thank you. Congratulations on the final season of Younger. Congratulations on Chicago Med.
Thank you.
You're such a good actress. I think people kind of try to pigeonhole you, but you do so many different things, and it is so nuanced, your performances. Is that come naturally, or was that a lot of training?
That first of all, what you just said to me is probably the only compliment I ever wish to receive. I no, I think I have a lot of training, definitely, but I something that really has scared me has being the prospect of being pigeonholed, right, typecast, and I feel like I I'm an actress who's not really typecastable, and it's something that I really like about my skill set as an actress. Yeah, I have a range. I'm funny, but I have a big heart and a lot of. I'm a whole person, is what I like to say. So I'm thrilled that that's legible to you. So you just made my day.
Well, thank you. But as a film critic, I look at. I've had the same conversation with Judy Greer, you know,
uh, yes.
and you go, wow, she's a comedian, she can do this, she can, but it is all that stage training that allows that to happen. And yet I think what happens with a lot of women in Hollywood is that they are bulldozed into, you got to play this, we won't. And that's a shame, because I would love to see you as a hit woman in a movie.
Same. I mean, it's funny watching Killing Eve. I think the execution on that show, these are both women who are able to do, like, I'm a big fan of the show, but what they're allowed to do on that show is just like, I watch it just to like vicariously live through them, and they're like eating the juiciest apple, they're not politely doing anything. It also speaks to Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Like, she's just what women are doing these days in film. I feel like I'm not as afraid as I was when I first began in the industry 7 years ago, right out of grad school. I feel like we're in a new era where we're allowed to do badass
Yeah,
stuff.
and I'm glad about that too. I'm glad that we're seeing a lot more directing, a lot more producing, a lot more writing. I mean, it used to be just Nora Ephron and others, but
Right.
and then speaking of that, do you miss being on stage? Do you miss live performance?
Oh, terribly. I mean, this pandemic has been so many ups and downs. Among them was, one of the ups was getting to shoot Younger, obviously, and getting to work and be with other actors and experience the alchemy of our cast, and be present.
Yeah.
The downest of the downs was when Hamilton came out on Disney Plus, and I had seen it twice live with I have a number of friends who were in it, and I just lost it. I was weeping in my partner's arms, like, the love of my life. We don't know when it will come back. Like, theater is I love acting on TV, and I love acting in film. But there is nothing like being in a room with a bunch of people, sitting in an audience, sharing the same breath, the same air as them, and it's a different performance every night.
Mhm.
You know, reading the room. Some nights you get a laugh on the line, other nights you don't. The spontaneity is my drug of choice. The spontaneity of live theater.
And as an actor, relying on that other person to say their lines properly and to be, hit their mark, it is so much more intense on stage than it is, having to do the blocking of television. Then, oh, we'll reshoot it, that kind of thing.
It's
Uh,
really, it's like an athleticism.
right.
I liken it to, a well-trained dancer or athlete.
You went to Yale. Um,
I did.
Marry me. Uh, I went to Yale for a little bit, but I learned how to make combination locks.
Ah, yes,
There's
the
an
great
old joke there.
locks. Yeah. No, I know. I always love seeing a Yale lock. It's like the same font at Yale. It's so funny.
The only ones I'll buy.
Yeah.
Uh, was that a wonderful experience for you? You know, kind of college performing, university performing?
Well, I actually I went to Skidmore College for my undergrad, and I studied Soviet and post-Soviet studies there. And
Wow.
I got a little involved with my best friend in college was this man named Will Bond. He was actually my professor, and he introduced me to City Company and Anne Bogart, and I did a lot of training with them. And then right out of undergrad, I went to the Yale School of Drama for my master's in fine arts. And it was the most difficult 3 years of my life in terms of the rigor of the schedule and the training. And I don't even know how to begin. I'm still processing 7 years out of school
Wow.
what I learned. And it's still kind of becoming clarified to me, like a lesson that was taught to me 7 years ago will kind of hit me on set, right? Like, oh, that is what Ron, my teacher at Yale, was saying when he's talking about Chekhov and how people come alive when they talk about trees. Like, oh, I'm in Central Park shooting this scene. That's what he was talking about. Like, it's a never, the process never ends. So yeah, it was the time of my life, and it was really difficult. But conservatory training is it's one of the things that I think not every actor should do, because I don't think everyone needs it
Yeah.
or is cut out for it. But if you have the diligence, the rigor, and the patience, it's a great way to go.
Is it hard to say goodbye to this cast? I mean, this is the final, kind of bow to younger. It's been a brilliant show, but is it hard to say goodbye to your character, Lauren?
It's so difficult to say goodbye to Lauren, and even more difficult to say goodbye to our cast and our crew and our writers. It has, I had just graduated from Yale when I booked this part. So there's a way of framing it like I have been playing Lauren since I left Yale. And it's that chapter, it's a huge chapter, and it's over. I have learned so much from her. I idolize Sutton Foster, getting to work with someone that I wrote her fan mail when I was 14. She wrote me back. So it's so crazy. Hillary has become my best friend. I'm godmother to her children. So it's just this wild. I will miss all of it. It's such a gift. It's been a highlight of my life.
And what a landmark role in series it is, because it speaks to so many different human emotions that I think every episode I've learned something.
Yeah, the show, I think it's this secret little beast. It has a really good heart, right? And so there's this earnestness to our show. It's crazy to think that the same person who made this made Sex in the City, right? Because they're they're very different, and there's more of a celebration of women in this show, because it even though there's the love triangle with Liza and Josh and Charles. For me, the real heart of the show are the female relationships, and it is kind of, it's very Greek in that way. Like there is a lesson in every episode.
It's Antigone, really.
Yes, yes, it is, certainly. Better that than Oedipus.
Yeah.
But it's yeah, it's I think it's our show is quite stealth in that way because it's entertainment and it's a delightful 22-minute watch, but there's always something to learn at the end of it.
As you jump into the Chicago Med, which you're doing right now, right?
I am not doing med this season. I couldn't. I COVID really does not let you do two projects at a time.
But learning to dance with a new crew and a new group of actors has got to be a difficult task to go from one to the other.
Oh yeah. I mean, for 2 years I did back and forth Chicago Med and Younger, and I just fell so head over heels with the cast and crew of Chicago Med. Um, Actually, one of the saddest parts of 2021, now that we're working again for me, has been not being able to go to Chicago and play with them. It's such a good group of people, and I surprised myself. At first I felt like I was cheating on Younger because I felt like I had all these like friend crushes and like actor crushes on these people on the show, and then the next thing I knew, I was just like part of the group, and it's set the thing that's really great about Med is that they've pretty much had the same crew and cast since the beginning. So there's just such a good rhythm on that set, and they're so sweet.
That team, I mean, there's always that chance of going into, these, kind of crossover shows and stuff like that, because it's a huge group of people that are
Yeah.
shooting in Chicago. One of my favorite towns, of course. I love Gibson's Steakhouse. Have you ever been there?
No, but I've walked past it many times. Yeah, my first time in Chicago was my first day like at work on Chicago Med. I
Yes.
just I was enchanted by Chicago.
I love, like I said, I love Chicago, and again, has a beautiful theater, base there too. Once we get back from this, the Chicago theater scene is just amazing. All of the improv places and all of the smaller theaters, the intimate settings are just amazing.
Steppenwolf, yeah, it's an amazing place. I spent a lot of time at oh gosh, the famous Chicago Second City. One of
Yeah.
my friends was on the main stage of Second City a bunch, so I would go see her a
And
lot.
you can always run into John Cusack and Jeremy Piven, waiting on
I was
tables.
hoping to run into John Cusack sometime.
Are you going to be directing and producing soon?
Oh, I hope so. I definitely, I recently had a chat with my team. I think I have to. I just feel like it's also part of the training at Yale, and part of just my natural instinct is like a deep sense of collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
A dear friend of mine from Yale, one of my best friends, we have some projects in the works, but they're so deeply in development that it's not really fruitful to talk about them. But yeah, I think I have to eventually. It's too much in my spirit.
Yeah.
Not
I wish I had gone to Yale. I really don't have an education. I went to USC.
USC is great.
Nah, I didn't do well there. Uh, I'm just joking. I love going to USC. It was a great training ground for cinema and television. And there, one of my professors said this to me. It's a very, very interesting quote. He said, "Theater is life, film is art, and television is furniture." And
That's changed recently.
yeah, it has, because that we have all these wonderful opportunities now to do more because of TV land and because of
Work, streaming, all of it. It's
yeah.
so there's so much content that I think TV has gotten really good, especially, the life of a miniseries. I love a miniseries. It's like a long film.
As we're kind of winding down our wonderful conversation here, is what do you do for hobbies? I mean, here you are, America's favorite actress.
Now,
Certainly a national treasure, if not a global treasure. And what do you do when you're just kind of relaxing? Do you have any hobbies? Do you cook? Do you paint?
I do have hobbies. I believe it or not, I have hobbies. I Sutton Foster taught me how to crochet,
No.
so I've turned into a huge crochet nerd, It's so relaxing. I love making hats and scarves for my friends, their partners, all of it. If you need a hat, you
I
email.
would love a Molly Bernard original.
I will actually make you a hat. Tell my publicist to send me your info, and I will actually make you a hat. I love it. I love making a hat. I painted a bunch of dog portraits, pet portraits, in the early part of quarantine, and that was really fun. Um,
You
but
weren't playing poker.
not a poker player. Although my grandparents, when I was a kid, did teach me a mean game of Deuces Wild, so I
There you
do
go.
get fun at that.
Of course, I was referring to your dogs playing poker, which is a very famous set of paintings.
Ah, wait, no, I don't even know that set of paintings. Dogs.
Really? Now, see, I'm going to talk to the publicist, and I'll send you.
You send me the dogs playing poker.
Yeah,
I'll
you
send.
can crochet them into a hat.
I will try. I'm not great at illustrating yet with crochet. That's something that Sutton Foster can do that I
Wow,
cannot.
you went to Yale and you don't know about dogs playing poker?
I know. Is that I'm embarrassed.
Molly.
Trouble.
Of course, I don't know anything at all. So,
That's deeply untrue.
um, well, I want to see you on every program. Can we arrange that? Can you
Yeah.
do?
Yeah, I'll just make sure I'm on every television show and movie from this point on.
I'd love to see you playing a cop, an undercover detective, a drug addict, and of course, a serial killer. Those are the things that I just think you would.
Honestly, sign me up. Same. This is my next. No, really, my team and I are discussing like, well, what's next? And I'm like, honestly, like, let's go really dark, really
A
fast.
caper film with you and Richard Kind, and
Oh, yes, please. Richard Kind.
he's really one of my dear friends. I've known Richard for a long time.
He's one of my favorite actors. I just got chills.
And like you, here's the parallel I will draw. Like you, he is unafraid to do interesting and new things. He just goes, well, yeah, I want to do a movie about two men sitting in a basement ready to die. I'm in.
I know. He's limitless. He's actually someone that I always bring up as a and Judy Greer, by the way.
Yeah.
And like I love a Fran McDormand. There are these chameleons that we have in our life as American actors that you could really look up to. He's a real land.
And it's almost an insult to, again, we were talking about pigeonholing at the beginning of our conversation, but to pigeonhole anybody as a character actor, they are an actor. In fact, they are, I think their talents outshine some of the movie stars that we have because they can do anything.
I agree. I in fact think that when I'm labeled a character actor, I'm like, "Ah, thank you so much. I work so hard to do that. Thank you." I think I think there is something to be said. Like Kate Winslet, she's a movie star. I think she's a character actress, actually.
Yeah.
That's high praise. I don't
Well,
think you're right though. Not all. In my mind, the greatest actors are character actors.
well, and it goes back to that love of performing and learning, because every set that you're on is got to be a learning experience. You learn from the others that you're around. You learn from the grips, the gaffers,
Absolutely.
and by the way, Younger, what a beautiful cast of workers that you have. That crew is so spot on. Everybody's in the right place.
Yeah, our crew is unbelievable. Also, there's something magical happening this season. It looks so beautiful. I just finished the last episode last night. It is shot like my jaw has been dropped several times. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, I just think it's such a well produced show. And as we end, I wish I could talk to you for about 6 more hours,
Yeah, same.
because I do really appreciate what you do, and I just kind of wanted to bring that into this interview. But did you learn a lot from your grandfather? I mean, he was involved with Lee Strasberg, and do you use a method? Are you a follower of that? The Meisner thing, the Stanislavski? Do you invoke that?
Yeah, I mean, I learned how to read going to my grandfather's acting class, and he co-founded and directed the Strasberg Institute with Lee, which is so cool, and that I had an early, exposure to that. My grandfather taught Stanislavski, and then I studied at the Moscow Art Theater actually in college, and I went deep into Stanislavski, and then I went to Yale. as we've talked about. And it's funny, I kind of proudly don't do any method. But I've studied a great deal about different acting techniques. Studied with City Company, Suzuki, viewpoints, all of it, and I just take what works for me from all of them, and I just try to not say no to anything. It's great working with a whole variety of different actors because sometimes I learn from them. As you said, every project is a learning experience. But no, I'm not a deep follower of anything Meisner, or I value the Stanislavski system, but it's not something I swear by.
Molly Bernard, it is such a privilege and an honor to talk to you and get to know you a little bit better. We did talk in the past. I'm going to tweet you, by the way, as soon as we're done.
I can't wait.
You are, like I said, and I'm not kidding. You are an American treasure, and um, all the best to you. And let's get out of this COVID thing so you and I can grab a cup of coffee somewhere.
I'm ready. I Sign me up. I'm ready. You're so cool. This was such a pleasure and a treat. Thank you so much.
Send me a hat, and I'll send you a dog picture.
Okay, but you need to seriously send my publicist your info because I'll actually make you a hat. I just
I
might.
believe Michael is listening at this moment, and he will send that to you.
Okay, good. Just measure the circumference of your head, and I'll make it a hat for you.
Well, it's huge.
Huge. Okay, size
A
huge.
huge hat.
Fabulous.
Have a great day, sweetie. Thank
Thanks.
you.